think I'm live. I'm reading out of Eyes of Horus. It is a book by Joan Marshall Grants. She was a seer and she used to be able to recall her incarnations. In this incarnation, she is a male. She is Ra, the son of priestess of Ra, and he is an heir to the nomarch of the Oryx. And he grows up in a corrupt Egypt. He is now, I think, 18, and he's traveling the country of Egypt. This is part 4, and I think we are in chapter 2, which is entitled Blood Sacrifice. Today is the 5th of September 2023. Even in the temples of the shadow, there were a few true priests, and of these was Tet Hen, whom Rodan had told me to see as soon as I found a suitable opportunity. The temple to which Tet Hen belonged was to the west of the city, and had been completed the previous year. It was approached by the avenue of the human-headed Sphinx, and the entrance to the outer courtyard was through a pylon 40 cubits high, on which were depicted the royal family making offerings to Ra and Sekhmet. I was not surprised to see the Lord of the High Noon worshipped in conjunction with Set's consort, for Rodan had told me it was part of the policy of the priests of the new religion to try to direct the traditional veneration of Ra into channels which would make him appear another of the gods of fear. The great copper-sheathed doors leading into the court of tribute had not yet been thrown open, though already many people were huddled in the scanty shade afforded by shadows cast by the pillars of the portico. Even if I had not been warned what to expect from these temples, the faces of those who waited to make their petitions would have been enough to tell me that the tribute they brought was not a free gift, but a bribe which they hoped would evoke respite from Set's flail. Near me, a woman crouched in the white dust, a baby held in the crook of her left arm. Her right hand was swathed in a dirty bandage, and in it she clutched something I could not see. The baby's head rolled helplessly, as though its neck was too weak to support it, and it whimpered incessantly, an unnatural cry like that of a blinded animal. I spoke to the woman, asking if I could do anything for her. She cringed as though she expected me to hit her. Lord, be merciful to me. I'm too poor for you to notice me. Have pity, for my child is very sick. Gradually I made her understand that I only wanted to help her. She was servile in her gratitude, like a beaten cur which crawls on its belly towards an outstretched hand. I had brought all I had to Sekhmet already, but she would not listen to me. Why should she listen to a woman who had nothing of value to offer her? But if she will permit my child to live, he will grow strong and one day be able to pay our debt to her. Set is angry at my presumption. He has crippled the hand of my little son as a sign of his anger. She drew back the cloth in which the baby was wrapped. Its hand was twisted, like the claw of a maimed bird. I have brought Set a token of my humility. Sometimes he will accept payment in blood instead of gold. I would have offered my hand so that he would restore my child's, but I had no one to help me. My left hand is clumsy, and the only knife I had was not very sharp. She held out the little bundle which she had been holding in her bandaged hand. Unwrap it, O Lord of pity. Perhaps you will intercede for me with the gods. They would listen to you, who are noble. Plead for me, that I might save my child. I've got a little cut here. Her eyes were brilliant in her thin face as she watched me unroll the dirty rags. Inside were 2 fingers, freshly severed at the knuckle joints. You do think that Sap will accept them? Promise me that you will make him accept them, although I was not brave enough to cut off my hand at the wrist. I was afraid of the blood, and if I'd lost too much, there would have no one to look after my son. I will intercede, not with Set, but with Ra on your behalf. I think Ra will do more than heal your child. He will tell me to send you on a journey to a part of Egypt which is far from this city. There you will forget you have ever been afraid. Not your 2 fingers, but the love which caused you to cut them off has broken the thongs which bound you to poverty and fear. And because of that love your son will grow strong, and his laugh will ring joyous on the warm air, as though he were a bird singing to greet the sun after long darkness. You would not mock me? Please do not mock me, though I have nothing. I tried to soothe her with my voice. No one shall ever mock you any more, and I told her to rest in the shade until I returned. I felt the heat strike up from the black granite steps as I mounted them to enter the court of tribute. I knew that I should find Tet Hen in the sanctuary of Ra, on the right side of the sanctuary where Sekhmet ruled. My Tahuti, weigh thy heart, I said to the young priest who stood alone by the statue of Ra, and he gave me the answer of the watchers against the Father of Truth. You are the son of the Oryx, peace be upon you, whose heart is in keeping of Ra. You are Tet Hen, the light among shadows, the pupil of Ra who works for the sun against the sycophants of the shadow. Then I gave him the message sent to him by Rodan. I no longer work alone here, he said, for now there are 2 others whose eyes are open. This temple will be large for so small a priesthood when the dawn is come, but soon there will be many others who will join us. The priests of Ma'at will look on the bodies of those who come here, and see if any of the channels through which Ptah sends down his life into man are closed against him. Then will the priest of Ptah refresh the weary and cleanse those who have a sickness upon them. Those who are in the power of Set shall find that the power of Ra will free them from this bondage. And all who come to the temple shall know that never again will they be without a friend. Tell me, Tet Hen, are the high priests strong in the power of Set? Must we challenge their power with yet a stronger? Or are they all only men who masquerade as priests and who can be vanquished with ordinary weapons? Only one here is a man with real power, Heket Ma'en. He who shall have the honor to break Heket's will must be great in magic. If soldiers are sent to take him, he may strike them blind, and until his power is broken, no one in the temples throughout the royal nome would dare to deny tribute to his master Set, who gives him strength. And what of the rest? Many of them are no worse than courtiers and no better. It is a pleasant life for a man without ambition, and a father whose daughter proves disobedient can send her here to honor her family by her virginity. Virginity? That is a vow imposed on a new priesthood. Perhaps authority found that lonely pupils proved more docile. It is even possible that some believe that priestly powers may be exchanged for temporal pleasures, but this, I think, is too subtle a reasoning, even for their duplicity. They are trying to rule by fear. Love and fear cannot dwell in the same house. If priest and priestess love each other, how then should they continue to sacrifice to Set? During the pestilence, it was said that more than oxen died to try to gain the favor of the river goddess. Is that true in this city? You will find no temple where it is admitted, nor would you find one where it is not known to be true. I myself had to watch a girl walk into the river. She seemed to be in a trance. Whether Heket had bound her will or whether she was drugged, I am not sure. She smiled when she felt the water lap over her feet. Very slowly she walked forward with her hand outstretched as though in greeting. But the crocodiles were impatient. She screamed before she drowned. Then I told him of the woman who waited for me in the outer courtyard. Can you arrange for her to travel to the Oryx? He asked. If not, there are ways by which I have already sent many people to Hotep Ra. Rodan may have told you that more than 100 of the watchers have passed this way to find the Oryx. I have a way to send her there. How do you know whom you may trust? There are few who come to this sanctuary, for it is known that Ra is not greedy of tribute and cannot be bought with gold. He is only worshipped here because that was part of the royal decree when the temple was built. To serve in this sanctuary is considered the last important of all the priestly offices. So it was not difficult for me to acquire. Nearly everyone who comes to this temple suffers from fear in some degree. But when I find one in whom love has shown itself to be stronger than fear, I know them to be watchers. To many of these I have been able to teach our ways, but there are some who need more than I can give them, and those I send to Rodan. They travel to the Oryx by several routes, mostly by river. There's a private way from this sanctuary to my house and the priest's quarters. The gatekeeper of the dwelling courts belongs to us, and if he was ever questioned, he would deny having seen a stranger pass out of the gates. Yet there have been many such strangers, both men and women. Some who come here as a noble left wearing a priest's robe, and some who came here poor as a bleached bone found a curtained litter waiting for them outside these walls. Surely their disappearance must have been noticed. A person cannot disappear even in the royal city without their family trying to trace them. One who has ties to keep him here would not go to the Oryx without telling the friends he knew he could trust. Those who were kept here by bonds, they were not strong enough to break without my help. Yes, search is sometimes made for them. But if the trail leads to the temple, the hounds say the scent is cold. No one is foolish as to accuse Heket, the high priest. For fear, he would demand a second sacrifice. You are very brave, Teten. I should be proud if I had a tenth part of your courage. I have not even tried in battle. But if I had proved myself the victor of 20 battles, I should still do you most humbly homage. He laughed. But why? We are both serving the Watchers, as are thousands of others, and all know that the death which comes to this conspirator who is betrayed is usually unpleasant. You are fighting almost alone here, not only against charlatans and knaves, but against one whom you say commands a stronger power than your own. Heket would try to destroy not only your body, but your soul if he knew you were working against him. Teten's eyes were young and calm. He touched the statue of Ra caressingly as he answered, I said Heket was stronger than I did not say Heket was stronger than Ra. He who stands in the sun has the protection of its rays, and they who walk in the light need not fear the shadow. It was foolish of me not to understand, I said, but Ra wouldn't stop Heket torturing your body, or could he even do that? Why should he? He does not protect the body of a soldier who dies fighting in his name. Why then should he protect my body? You set Ra up that I am braver than you. If that is true, then you must be wiser than I. For it needs more courage to go on a journey alone on a strange road than to follow a path which is familiar. I do not know round which curve of my road I shall see death coming to meet me. But I know that the greeting we will exchange will be those of men who have been friends long since. For I have often found pleasure in his company on the long road to the shining land. I must leave you now, I said, to take the woman and her child to where they can be cared for until they go to Hotep Ra. Tell her to follow a few paces behind you. There are many eyes in the royal city which find satisfaction in spying on things that do not concern them. Here no one would believe you were helping the woman only out of charity. I had to pass by the statue of Sekhmet to gain the outer courtyard. Incense had been lighted in a basalt censer on the offering table. The heavy smoke seemed to undulate with the purr of a great cat, and the brooding eyes, half cat, half woman, watched me across the room. The woman followed me, obedient as a dog. I dared not explain that I was going to do what I was going to do until we were alone, lest her gratitude arouse too much curiosity among those who still waited in the courtyard. At the outer gate I stood aside to let a fat merchant pass. Behind him came a Nubian slave carrying the merchant's tribute, 2 elephant tusks. I wondered what had made guilt weigh so heavily on him that he parted with so much treasure. Perhaps it was Set's promised share of the plunder of some village in the land of gold. The wife of the watcher who kept the house in the street of the coppersmith, put the baby in a basket by the window and helped me to wash its mother's hand. The bandage was hard with dried blood, and we set to soak it in water before we could cut it off. Then I saw the statue of the ragged stump. I asked for vinegar to cleanse the wound. It was difficult to understand how she could have summoned the determination to cut off the first and second fingers of her right hand. With slow, difficult strokes of a blunt knife wielded in her left, sweat made little shining runners down her thin cheeks, but she made no sound. I asked her, "Is there any one of you would like to take with you on this journey?" "No one wants me," she said. There was no self-pity in her voice. It was only a flat statement of facts. "It doesn't matter to anyone what happened to me. The women who let us sleep in the corner of her byre won't notice if I never go back there. She may think I've moved on, or that we have both died, and I and my son. She will say it is the best thing that could happen to both of us. But it wouldn't be better for my son to die. He has got to grow up first and be strong and happy, like his father was." "Who is his father?" I asked, less from curiosity than to keep her talking while I finished putting the clean dressing on her hand. "I can't tell you that. I have never told anyone, and I never will." She nodded at the baby who had fallen asleep. "I might tell him when he's grown up, if he is the kind of person his father wanted his son to be. Very soon, when your hand is healed, a little journey, and you are feeling stronger, you will be ready to start on your journey. Till then, you must stay here, and these people will look after you both and give you new clothes and anything you choose to eat." "Could there be milk for the baby?" she asked. "As much as he wants. I can't give him enough anymore." "As much as he wants," I promised her. "As much of everything that either of you wants. And then one day I'll take you both down to the river to a friend of mine who has got a very large trading barge. He's going south with a cargo of grain very soon, and has plenty of room for you and the baby. His wife is a friend of mine too, and she will be very kind to you. In 6 or 7 days, perhaps a little more if the wind is contrary, you will come to the place where no one is frightened. The children smile when they see a stranger, and you will hear women singing as they go to the well. That's the first thing you will notice, which makes it so different from the royal city. The people all look happy. That and the sound of singing. You will have your own room. Later you can have a small house of your own if you prefer it. It will be a large room with a window and a pot of flowers on the sill, and matting on the floor and clean covers on the bed place. When you are both quite strong, they will find some kind of work for you to do, something you like doing. You will always have a home and enough to eat, and there will never be any of them whom you need be afraid." Her eyes were trustful as a child's, and I realized almost with horror that she was not an old woman, but only a year or two older than myself. "I have heard of that place," she said. "When I was very little, someone used to tell me about it. The land where there is no more pain or being hungry or frightened. I didn't know it was a real place you could get to by going in a boat. I thought it was the country where the gods live, and that I should have to die to get there. I'm so glad I don't have to die, so that I can stay and look after my little son until he grows up and doesn't want me anymore." "You will always be wanted," I said. "That's the most important thing about the country you're going to. Once you belong there, someone always needs you." Wow, that was lovely. Wishing all a good Wednesday with